Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Tech Tuesday. This looks a little bit different because I am broadcasting from the Tampa Convention Center. I am here for the Senior Living Executive Conference. My guest today is Dennis Hu. We've never actually met in person, but we've become Facebook friends, acquaintances. He is an amazing expert on LinkedIn, and he's going to teach us some terrific stuff to that. We're going to get into our conversation in just a minute. Hey guys, Steve Moran here. Dennis, thank you so much for joining me. I am so excited to learn from you. Let's just start with a little bit about who you are, what you do, what your passion is.
I'm just an old-time search engine engineer. I built the analytics at Yahoo 25 years ago or so, and I've learned that beyond just data and crunching huge databases, that connections are really the key to everything. It's kind of weird, left brain, right brain, and I thought today I'd show some things that are working really well on LinkedIn, what I found to work that I think anyone else who's an executive or a founder or a salesperson would benefit from.
So before we actually get into this stuff, I'd like to actually talk a little bit about the value of LinkedIn. I don't think I have as many followers as you, but I work LinkedIn really hard. I have probably the biggest follower in the industry, and yet I'm always surprised when I talk to people who have very little activity on LinkedIn. I met a sales. I was at on the trade show floor today. I met a guy who said, "Oh yeah, my company's really active on LinkedIn, but if you look at my profile, I've never posted anything. I have maybe 200 friends." And I don't know about you, but I think that's crazy.
This whole idea of how many connections you have is such a vanity, superficial sort of metric. Would you rather have, Steve, 5 really good friends or 500 people that sort of know who you are? And whenever I'm in Nashville today speaking at a conference, I'm the closing keynote in a couple hours. And I know when I speak, and if I do a good job, I'll get dozens of LinkedIn requests. And this drives clients and consulting and deals and equity and all that kind of stuff. And it's not because I'm, spamming and DMing and trying to make as many connection requests. I mean, you can pay for all the different paid products on LinkedIn where, you can send out tons of messages and do research and things that salespeople like to do. But I'm just old fashioned. I believe that if you openly share what you know how to do and you elevate other people, which I can't wait to show you some techniques that I've been using, then you will build great connections. They will come to you versus you having to introduce yourself and say who you are and pitch your company and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I love the idea that they'll come to me because people really struggle and think they've got to connect. And you're absolutely right. I mean, I've got tens of thousands of connections, and I probably know 1,000 of those people a little bit, and a few dozen of those well. So teach us some things. What do you have to share?
All right. So let's go to my LinkedIn. And I'm a big fan of demonstrating from actual experience, not just like hearing what someone else said, right? So let's go to my LinkedIn. It's like a obese weight loss coach, right? I mean, your advice might be good, but you're not living it, right?
Yeah.
So if we go
So we'll pop that up there.
the actual posts and activity, which is you go to anyone's profile and you can see their posts, you'll see that, for example, I want you to see this, what I'm doing here, Steve. There's a strategy, and once you see it, I think you can't unsee it. So here I made this post 2 days ago, and I said, look, my friend Jack Went ranks #1 on his name, and he has a knowledge panel, which is knowledge panel is when you search someone and like all these boxes pop up, right? And then all this stuff like who you are, right? That's a knowledge panel. So how do you get that? And I said, well, it's because he published all of these interviews with other people. And he also published to high profile sites like mine and whatnot in different industries. And that's how he got that. And the founder of OnlineShops.ph and some other high profile people commented on it. That was cool. Then 3 days ago, Richard Bliss, who is the main speaker for the National Speaker Association. So all these professional speakers, he trains them on how to use LinkedIn. And he also does a lot of sales training on LinkedIn. So this is one of the top guys on LinkedIn. I learned from him. He flew into Vegas and said, hey, Dennis, are you in town? I'd love to get lunch with you. And so we had sushi, he paid. And I made a post about him. Again, I'm not talking about myself. I'm honoring someone else. And I said, I can't believe I got to have a lunch with Richard Bliss. He charges $12,000 to $17,000 just for one session. And I got a private session with him, right? Steve, check this out. Look at who is commenting. So now, so it's my audience and his audience together. So if you look, you'll see it's all these other people that are saying, oh, well, we have these mutual friends, and oh, I'm seeing him tomorrow at this training, and Richard is awesome. All these guys are saying how amazing Richard is, because when I tagged him and honored him, that brought in his 150,000 or what. It's not even how many followers you have, right? Look at the quality of these comments here. I care more about the quality of the connections. And so I'm introducing my network to Richard, so they're learning about him, and vice versa, right? And then look at him. He says, you continue to give of your time and talent to lift those around you. I benefited from our relationship, continue to be inspired by your journey. I can't even say that. It's like a mouthful, right? So I would ask you, Steve, what's more powerful? Me talking about how awesome I am, or other people talking about me?
Oh, there's no question that other people talking about you is everything, okay, right? And so, yeah, absolutely.
So then how do you get other people to talk about you? Well, the good old golden rule reciprocal thing, where the majority of my posts, I'm saying like this, oh, Richard Bliss is amazing. Then they're also saying I'm amazing. So I literally say, I'm always looking for opportunities to catch people in the act of doing something good, right? Like I was super grateful that I got to teach a class for Johns Hopkins University on digital marketing. And I'm saying thank you. So I'm constantly saying thank you. These posts on LinkedIn, look at this. I'm going to honor more of my friends by having them on my podcast, right? And because they deserve it. And there's a lot of people who are loud, but they don't really deserve to be seen. And there's people who are kind of, doing the good work, but they're sort of quiet about it. And I'd love to feature them. And then these other people come in, look at the comments, right? Same kind of thing. They're like, oh, being on your podcast is amazing. Or this guy's a client, right? And they're introducing, this guy's like, hey, we should get together. Like, okay, yeah, let's get together, right? And so do you see the pattern here? My LinkedIn pattern. Look, here's another one. Hanging out at the pool in Miami, or wherever this was. I don't remember where this is. Was it Miami? I don't know. San Antonio. Speaking at a digital marketing conference, and Brian Eisenberg is there, right? Like, holy crap, we share the same birthday. We've been celebrating our birthdays together for the last 20-something years. And he's big in home services and digital marketing. And I tagged him saying how awesome. And then he tagged me, right? So here's my friend Natalie of Cometa. We were in Canada, and I was saying some amazing things about how she organizes a conference. It's her 10th year. Their company's celebrating. We're doing this on stage in front of a bunch of people, right? I made this video live, you can see, right? Then she and her co-founder and other people take this, share it across social media, and that's growing my audience. Now I'm talking about, okay, I spoke at this conference, but I'm honoring other people. I'm honoring them, right? It builds my authority because I'm honoring them.
I love this so much. So are you, it almost feels like, and I guess I'm going to even include myself on this since we don't really have this relationship except on LinkedIn. I mean, you've done me this great honor of being a guest on my show, right? And so it feels like you try to be as generous as possible. I've also met a couple of people where I've invited them to be on live streams, and I don't really think of them as that big even, and they refuse to do it because I don't know why. But it seems, my sense is that more generous is better.
Yeah. Well, it's not just being generous for what it has to be intentional, and they have to have a real connection, because people can sense whether you're just like fluffing someone to get a sales commission or whether you actually believe in them. So we want to know whether someone's Googleable. If you look up someone on LinkedIn, or you look at them on, across these different channels, then, are you there? And
Yep.
people will decide who you are based on who your friends are, based on who you know, right? And so we literally just want, how many other Steve Morans are there? There's 24 of them. You
Yep.
knew that, right? And
Yeah.
and who's this guy? Does this ever frustrate you, Steve? That this English footballer is ahead of you and he's got a 481 confidence score, which is super high. 400 plus as a celebrity, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't
Yeah.
even play anymore in the
Yeah.
1980s. Is this you? 109? Let's see, who's this guy?
That
Hopefully
looks like. Yep, that's
some
me.
other guy.
Nope, that's
Oh, this
me.
is you?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
me.
it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Senior living. So
Now this is So I
I,
don't know what that one. The second listing is down there though. So um,
some of these are yours and some of these are not. Is this
yeah,
your
some of those are mine,
competitive?
and some are the top
You're,
one is mine.
you're okay. This
Yeah.
this one, Citrus Heights, is yours.
Yeah.
This is some other Steve Moran. This
Yeah.
is a competitive power lifter. I don't know. Are you a strength coach? I mean, I'm sure you look
I'm
like you're
not a
pretty
strength
strong.
coach. That's not me, and I'm not an MD.
No. This one's
No.
you. So
Yeah.
then I would ask you, based on what you know about building connections and networking and all the stuff we're talking about with LinkedIn, how do you think Google is trying to understand who Steve Moran is? And how is it that there's all these other Steve Morans and Google's not exactly, so we're heating up Google's API to understand who is Steve Moran. And all of you guys can do the same thing too, right? Come in and look yourself. We built a little tool. If you're not a programmer, you can just go look at our tool and type your name in and see what does Google say about you. For this, it's put all these items together under this ID. This Steve Moran, right, is the one who's number one.
Yep.
But why can't we be number one for our name, even if there's a soccer player ahead of us?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
The guy's 64. He's not playing soccer anymore. You can dominate him, right? Probably only got 10 searches a month on his name.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you do that?
So how do I do that?
You do things that create interestingness around what you're talking about. So if we're talking about senior living, you know what I could do? This is a fun one. Let's see. I don't want to go too far into the AI research tools because then people will. We'll just do this. Okay.
Okay.
So let's just do. So my friend Steve Moran runs Senior Living, and we're on his podcast right now. And I want to grab everything that is interesting about him and notable, any honor, any accolade, any review, anything that shows he has high authority and trust, and put that list together for me so that I can perhaps have him on my podcast, or maybe write a featured entrepreneur article about him, or even repurpose the live stream that we're doing right now on his Tech Foresight Tuesday thing. And so the transcription's not that great, but
right.
So now I'm asking, so Gemini, who runs Gemini?
Google. Yep.
Google, it's Google's AI. So why am I using Google's AI to try to understand what Google, like why don't I use ChatGPT or some of these other ones?
That makes sense. Yeah.
And so
because
now there's this whole thing. Now there's all this information about you, Steve, right? I imagine almost all this is true, right? Focus on senior living, right? And notice these links here are all citations, right? From other places that verify that this is true. All these things are true. So if all of us are able to create or able to understand what do we know about Steve Moran, we can show it better on LinkedIn, on Google, on YouTube, on whatever, right? It's literally that simple. We just need to know what the strength of these different sources are. Now, the majority of the sources are from seniorlivingforesight.net.
Yep.
But there's now remember, we said that the most authoritative things are when other people talk about you, right?
Right.
So which of these carry more weight? Caring.com, QX Global, you've got a book here on Amazon, right? Let's try to assemble all of these positive mentions that other people have to say about us, and then we rank on their names. So when I have someone on my podcast, I turn that into an article and I rank on their name. And they keep telling me, dang, I can't believe, when I was on your podcast, now all these people say that they heard me on your podcast. You must have a really big podcast. I'm like, no, I don't. I'm not a
Right.
big deal. But when I publish it, it ranks under these other people's names, and therefore they see it. You create content, but most people, their content is never seen. So that's what I don't want people to see, right? And then it goes back to simply, if we look at, here, this is your LinkedIn, and it's not how many followers you have, even though you got a lot of mutual connections. That's pretty awesome, right?
Yep.
So if I come here and I see Senior Living Foresight, and you are the founder and CEO, wouldn't seniorlivingforesight.net be the most authoritative place to learn about Steve Moran? Or maybe you have a personal brand website, right? We go to the About Us, our team, right? This is where I expect to see, and this is true for all you guys. All you guys, you all are guilty of this thing, okay? So meet the team. Here's all these people. But then where's okay, so you have all these profiles. And I don't mean to put you on the spot too much, Steve, but this is educational for everybody. Right?
No, this is okay. I be as brutal and direct as you want, because that's how we don't learn from our fans, right? We learn from people who show us the stuff we're doing wrong.
Yeah, it's like, maybe you're a few pounds overweight and you get on the scale and the doctor tells you, oh, your cholesterol's a little high.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's all we're doing, right? Don't get mad at the scale. So here you have these different people. And this is true for all of us, right? With our team page, and this is, about the team and all this. But look, this should be an authoritative, like this should link to another page just on Steve Moran from here, right?
Mm-hmm.
But because of that, LinkedIn doesn't quite understand fully who you are. Google doesn't understand fully who you are, right? So then I could try it another way, because I'm trying to understand who you are. Senior Living. Okay. Senior Living Foresight. Okay. So you're an author here, you have a LinkedIn, but there's nothing, Google's not really clear on understanding who you are. There's no, like, what's the most authoritative? If there was like one URL on who is Steve Moran, where would that be? Where should that be? And what would be on that page? Is it your LinkedIn profile? Is it
my LinkedIn profile is probably right now, at least right now, but maybe it shouldn't.
Yeah, but LinkedIn is no, it shouldn't be, because LinkedIn is rented land, just like YouTube and Facebook. Those are all rented properties. We don't own those things. So what you got to do is set up stevemoran.com, which you can buy for $10.91. And if someone else has stevemoran.com, then you buy steve-moran.com. Okay.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
Yep.
Okay. No one types in HTTP, whatever. So let's see, is this even available? So just buy this thing. And then this thing that we started to have Gemini write, I would argue this is probably more authoritative and more comprehensive than anything else that we have about you, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to try this again. Watch this. Now I want you. Why is it not? Maybe it's because.
It's probably because your microphone is on.
Yeah, it's because whatever. Well, anyway, I have to type it now. Now put together a comprehensive. And this will come back with some amazing stuff. Bio with full EEAT, which is what Google's looking for: experience, expertise, authority, trust, for Steve Moran. Now there's many Steve Morans, but then I'm going to see. So all you guys can do this, okay? You have to pay the $20 a month for Google's advanced thing or whatever. Foresight Living. It's worth it, okay? You can do it with ChatGPT too, by the way, right?
Yep.
You give it intent. So I can write a featured entrepreneur. I'm going to do many things with this. It's going to come back with all this stuff. Featured entrepreneur article. Update his personal brand site. Oops, not band. You don't play it unless you play an instrument.
No.
Band site. And his company about page, right? We can if we have this, Steve, if we have this big database of all these accolades, every place you've ever spoken, every podcast, every article, every achievement, every accomplishment, if we had all that in one place, wouldn't that be the ideal way to then I could sprinkle it everywhere as long as I had it all in one place, right? So who is, like, would you not agree it's super valuable to come in and actually just assemble this thing of all the good things other people have ever said about you, right? And then we'll just do the same thing over in ChatGPT, okay?
Yeah.
Same thing. Right? Now, Who do you think's going to do a better job, ChatGPT or Google?
Probably ChatGPT, but I'm thinking you're going to prove me wrong on that.
Conversational tone in my voice, because I can tell it how to do it. You choose. All right. So now it's going to go and do this whole thing, right?
Yep.
And let's see, and then let's see the stevemoran.com. Okay, so I would just come in and buy Steve-Moran. Now, why would I want? You already have seniorforesighliving.net. Why would I also want to have Steve-Moran.com?
Yep.
But why would I want to? I mean, you already have. You have your whole team about. Why would you want to also have a personal brand website? Wouldn't that be like a duplication of effort?
Well, I guess that's my question, but I would assume that to some degree, the more websites you have or you're on, the better off you are. Although you don't want to have junk, right?
I mean, you don't want to just have a million websites for the sake of it, but you want to have because you as a person are different than Senior Foresight Living as a company.
Right.
So those are different. There's certain things, like there's things about the company, but then there's things about you. Maybe you have like personal interests. Maybe you like to play golf or whatever. Like that has nothing to do with the company.
Right.
So to understand, so for Google to understand who Steve Moran is as a person, there's all these things, all the facts that are associated with this Steve Moran under this kind of social security number, if you will. Okay.
Yeah.
And under this one, this has got a confidence score of 109, but this isn't only you. This is a jumble of other Steve Morans, as you saw. Why do you think Google is like Google's supposed to be so intelligent? Why do you think Google is mixing all these other Steve Morans and putting them under this particular object? Not this one, but this other one, right? Why? How is Google confused?
Well, it's really awful, right? Because what it says is that I haven't done a good enough job of telling Google who I am.
Exactly. It's that simple.
Right.
And that's what SEO is. SEO is not some magic technical tricking the search engine, writing code. It's none of that. It's merely, okay, how do I disambiguate myself from the 24 Steve Morans that are out there? And then you guys can do it with your name and see like, how is it different? And then if you can put together, I know I'm covering like 8 things at the same time, but here, let me just give it to you one step at a time. If I can put together all the things about me, especially how I relate to other people in an industry, and so that I, like this John Smith is not that John Smith, and tying it to my company and my achievements and who I am, then I can have that live in multiple places and have the hub of the wheel be my personal brand website that links out to my socials, that links to my Senior Living Foresight, that links to these other places, right? And you can see now it's doing all these, they're both doing great research, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm going to do is, it's incredible once this comes back. You won't believe how smart and I technically think, Google seems to do a slightly better job at research.
Is that right?
ChatGPT is a little bit better at being, because it's built on top of the search engine. So ChatGPT doesn't have a search engine. They don't have this big database. Like Google, there's no question. Everyone agrees Google has the biggest database of things and how all these things are related together. That's what a search engine, it's all tied. It's this thing called the knowledge graph, which is what we were querying here. So most people just ask Google a question, but we're actually hitting their API to ask for the specific objects to return when I'm looking for any person or company or product or service or the hotel that we're at, or those are all objects. And so I want to know all the information associated with a particular object. That's what the search retrieval is, right? When you do a query. And all I'm doing is saying, give me everything associated with that object. And it's telling us that, well, this Steve Moran under this KGM ID 11TP SC49, this ID here, you see this about, this ID here is a jumble of different Steve Morans.
And I've got to get to the point where that knows enough about me that I get my own ID.
That's right. And then if you do it right and Google's clear about who you are, because, there could be other Steve Morans that are writing articles or making posts about their kids or whatever it is, maybe not in Citrus Heights, but if we can make clear to Google, hey, I'm Steve Moran, and then this is actually me, versus this other retired Steve Moran or the what fighter pilot Steve Moran or whatever, right? The music of Steve Moran, you know. Is that you?
No,
You're an entertainer too, or is that some other guy?
no, that's some other guy.
There's a lot of Steve Morans. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, there
So
are.
we're just trying to show, hey, you know, this John Smith, that's me, right? And
Yeah.
then we put it on the website, and then that ties back to our LinkedIn. So if we look at your LinkedIn, then we should see more information that ties to who you are. Now, the fact that you're connected with so many other people is good, but that's only within LinkedIn's little network of all these
Right.
people and things and companies, right? But you can mention Steve Moran in multiple places. Or steve-moran.com, right?
Yeah.
It's just making yourself visible, and it's letting other people, let's see, what else? There's a lot of other things that people have to say about you. You have all these endorsements and these recommendations, you know? These are all great things, but I bet you, and everyone here in the live stream, I bet you that all these recommendations that people have made about you on LinkedIn, for example, that these live nowhere else, and this is pure gold that you could reuse. You could copy these and put them onto your personal brand website. Why not? Right?
Yeah.
You could copy. You could say thank you to any of these other people, and say, "Oh, thank you so much for Leanne Hubbard. You know, I remember when we first met at this conference and did this project together, or whatever." Right?
Yeah.
But how many of us have accumulated all these great recommendations over the years, and then they just sit here?
Yep.
This gold just sits here. What a shame, isn't it?
It
unbelievable.
Is. I mean, honestly, you are like blowing my mind here, because I've not seen anybody talk about this before, and it makes so much sense.
Well, I'm a search engine engineer. What do you expect?
Yeah.
I'm not a marketer. These people, like all the marketing people, they're so confused. But look, look at and I'm taking all the credit. I've done nothing except just say, who's Steve Moran? And then it came back with all this, right? Now somehow you give me all the credit. But look, it's looked at all of these different places to see, like, most of us, we're so busy. I don't know, maybe we're humble, but we've never had anyone go and look, we can see the thinking process. We can see what they've looked at, right? It's looked at 64 websites already. That's pretty awesome.
That is amazing.
You know what? And you come over here now. You know, ChatGPT is still doing it. This is called deep research. This is like don't just like talk right back at me, which is what typically happens. I want you to take your time and actually think about this in multiple steps. That's what deep research is. But when this comes back, I've done this. I've done this with so many of my friends, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I forgot that these people said this thing about me 10 years. I forgot I did that. I forgot I won this award. Oh yeah, I remember that now." And then it's, you know, it's like like when you move, you have to like pack up all your stuff and you go through your stuff and what you're gonna throw away. And it's like, oh yeah, there's like, you go through all these memories. And so that's kind of what we're doing here. And so when people come through and they inventory their stuff, it's like, oh, you start to feel like, wow, I really, this is like a great self-esteem thing. Cause like, I'm starting to feel, I really recall all these great things. I start to feel so good about myself. I didn't realize, oh yeah, that was true. I forgot about that. Right?
This is mind-boggling good. This is so amazing. So we are running out of time here. Can you give me 90 seconds on kind of what you do and how you help people and how people can get in touch and follow you?
Absolutely. So we practice what we preach. My name is Dennis Yu, spelled Y-U. You can Google me, and I'm on all the different channels. I'm happy to connect with anybody. If you guys want to learn to be more like Steve Moran and tie your things together, then go search Blitz Metrics Knowledge Graph and type your name in. If you want to be, you know, showing up better on Google, and you are an accomplished entrepreneur and executive, I would love to help you be able to do that. I've spent $1 billion on Google and Facebook ads for some well-known companies, but I think the heart of any company or brand is the sum of all the individuals, of all the people, of all the stories. So even if you are not trying to be a personal brand and have a Lamborghini and look at me, or that's not what this is about. That's not what personal branding is. It's about uplifting your community and your team members and your why and the impact you want to make. And if you're that mission-driven sort of person, I think it'd be fun to be able to elevate you and have it so that Google understands who you are and LinkedIn understands who you are, and make your networking more powerful And all the content I put out on how to do this is free. It's public. I don't charge for it. Of course, my time and the services of our team we charge for, but I want to put all the stuff out here for free so the good people in the world who deserve to be seen are, instead of those who are just louder.
Yeah, thank you so much. You are one of the most generous people I've ever met. I feel crazy honored to do this. You have given me a whole ton of homework. Obviously, Jada, who's part of my social media group, has watched this and she knows she's got that. I've got a whole bunch of people I'm going to assign to make sure they watch this, and we'll get a transcript so we can get all this stuff. And I'm going to report back to you. I thank you a million times for doing this. It has been absolutely amazing, and everybody should be following his and learning from you. I mean, this is how we get better. I think the other lesson I would just like to point out here is that you've been kind of tough on me, and that has been perfect. That is, I am so grateful for people who are willing to say the hard stuff. Say, you know what, you're not doing a very good job, and here's how to fix it. That is what we need to all be doing for each other.
Steve, this is what you want, though. You're a Ferrari with a flat tire. There's all this amazing stuff about you, and no one has ever bothered to collect all of it. So I actually like the situation, right? I'd rather have a beautiful vehicle that just needs to fix the paint job a little bit than the engine being broken. You have the situation you're in is exactly the situation people should want to be in.
Yeah, perfect. This has been amazing. Thank you very much. And if you're in, I'll be in Las Vegas in October for sure. I'm going to reach out, and if I can buy you lunch if you're available, I'd love to do that. So thank you very much. And we'll be back on Friday with Foresight TV.